This was the only thing that I could find that looked like a cigar. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to wear these glasses because they are so reflective, but today we are going to be checking off the Marx Brothers Duck Soup from the 1001 movie checklist. If you do not know what the 1001 movie checklist or 1000 movie challenge is, it is basically a challenge I've given myself to check off every single movie from the 1000 movies you must see before you die book. So far, I have checked 163 movies off the list. If you want to know more, you can check out a playlist with every single video I have done in this series so far and an introduction video up there. I'm also an Amazon affiliate, so if you would like to start this challenge for yourself, purchase the movie I'm talking about today, or get the movie I'm going to be talking about next week, you can check the links in the description, and if you purchase anything from those links, I'll get a little bit of a kickback, and it'll help make this channel even better. I actually did a time-lapse of me testing this makeup look out, me becoming Groucho. If you want to see that, it is going to be up on Patreon as a pre-production bonus feature. It's interesting, to say the least. This is my second time doing it, and it's kind of stainy, but it's fun. It's a fun video if you want to see me transforming into Groucho. As always, let's get started with a short summary. In order to bail them out of a financial crisis, the wealthy Mrs. Teasdale presses the government of Fredonia to appoint Rufus T. Firefly as the new president. However, once in power, Firefly declares war on the neighboring Sylvania over marriage to Mrs. Teasdale.
There'll be 2 lamps in the steeple if they're coming by land and 1 if they're coming by sea. They've double-crossed me. They're coming by land and sea. Right through every village and town. Wake every citizen up, hill and down. Tell them the enemy comes from afar with a hey-na-na-ni and a hot-cha-cha.
I think I'm about to take these off. It's just too reflective. And now I just look really dumb. I look a little bit more like Harpo there. So if I angle my face like this, I look fine. Okay, let's just keep going with this. So, this movie, I was really excited to watch because I have heard so much about the Marx Brothers. I am a huge fan of old school comedies and old school film and TV shows, as I have talked about multiple times throughout this series, but I have never watched anything. I don't think I've watched any of their stuff except for this one scene from my favorite episode of I Love Lucy, which, if you do not know, I Love Lucy is one of my absolute favorite TV shows of all time, and I think Harpo in this episode is the only time I've ever seen, I feel like the only time I've ever seen any Marx Brother in anything, and the climactic scene in this episode is actually inspired by a scene in this specific movie that was made 20 years previously. I also didn't realize that this was slightly a musical, which is kind of weird. There's only a couple songs in this, so it's not technically a musical, but it is very funny all the same.
No one's allowed to smoke or tell a dirty joke, and whistling is forbidden. We're not allowed to tell a dirty joke. Live Fredonia. Hide, 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 home. To war, we're gonna go. Hide, 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 home.
Before I get into the real meat of this video, which is talking mostly about the comedy stylings of the Marx Brothers, I do want to talk a little bit about the story of this. It is a very short movie. It is a little over an hour, about 70 minutes long, with credits. There was an underlying story there. I knew what the story was. I could follow the story, but a lot of what happens seems very random. All of the characters' motivations don't really seem to line up with, well, not all of, really pretty much just Chico and Harpo. Their motivations and their actions don't really seem to line up exactly with what is going on with the story. To me, it just seems like a lot of what they do is going back and forth between the Slovenian ambassador and Groucho, and they don't really seem to be spies for either side. Like, they're supposed to be a spy for the ambassador, but they keep going over and doing different things for Groucho, and it doesn't really have to do anything with what they're spying on. You don't see them really bringing any information to the ambassador. It's very weird. It's kind of like they're working for themselves, which makes sense. It's just a goofy, absurdist comedy, and I really appreciate that. But everything happening was so funny, so it either kind of distracted me from the fact that there was no clear set storyline. Well, there was a clear set storyline, but it either distracted me from the fact that the characters' actions and some of the storyline was a bit random, or it really forgave itself in my eyes subconsciously for the fact that there wasn't that, or for that fact, because I was just having such a good time the entire 70 minutes I was watching this movie. And the comedy stylings of the Marx Brothers was just so great, and I absolutely love them, and I need to watch so much more. You can see their vaudevillian roots into play here. A lot of the physical comedy reminded me a lot of the old Buster Keaton style silent movies. This movie came out around, the Marx Brothers started really getting into filmmaking around the time that sound started becoming a big thing in moving pictures. So they had a built-in audience already from their vaudeville acts to go see their moving pictures with sound, and it really, I feel like, helped a lot of their comedy. Even though there was Harpo, who never really talked, but he talked through horn honks and other things, and a lot of his comedy was more physical. Which I absolutely love. Physical comedy is one of my favorite types of comedy. It's so hilarious, and he does such a great job. There is this reoccurring bit with a lemonade vendor, and there's a solid minute of this hat bit that they do with a lemonade vendor that they had perfected during their stage performances over the years. It was probably the part that I just sat there and laughed. I rewound it to watch it again. The same with when you first see Groucho enter the movie. He slides down this pole, and I literally laughed out loud when he gets up next to the guard and he starts talking to the guard and everyone's waiting for him.
You expecting somebody?
Yes.
Their timing is so great. I think a lot of that comes from their stage performances, but it's still super, this is why I love film, because you can keep performances like these, just keep them forever. And one final thing I wanted to talk about, which doesn't have anything to do with the comedy stylings or the writing, is this one very strange cut that happened. It doesn't happen anywhere else. It is something I talked a little bit about in the Seven Samurai video, where they don't really quite stay on the 180-degree axis, which is something a lot of Japanese filmmakers do. And this movie was made in 1933, so the rules of cinematography and filmmaking were still, they were in place, but they were still kind of being built upon, and they weren't super set in stone. There's this one that was super harsh, and I did like just rewind it a couple times and go frame by frame to see if this was really happening. It's this super harsh cut where Groucho sits down and he's facing one way, but then the camera cuts to behind him and he is facing that same direction. He like does a complete 180 and the camera does a complete, it's very weird, and it's probably playing over me right now, but it's so, like, it just bothered me a lot, and I can forgive it for the fact that this is a 1933 movie, but oh my god, it was so weird to me. The clip I chose for this movie has inspired multiple bits like this, but most importantly, it was the inspiration for one of my favorite scenes from one of my favorite episodes of I Love Lucy. And that's all I have for Duck Soup. As always, these are just my opinions, but I'd love to know yours in the comments down below. Let me know what your favorite Marx Brothers movie or performance is. If you want to know which ones I have already watched, or just follow my progress along in general, there's a link to a Google Doc in the description down below with a list of every single movie I have checked off so far. Next, I'm going to be checking off another comedy movie that I know I will love because Steve Martin is in it. It is The Jerk. But thank you guys so much for watching. Again, me transforming into Groucho is going to be up on my Patreon for, I think I'm going to put it for 15 and up because it is a bit of a pre-production video, and anytime I do costumes and stuff like this where I kind of get into a look of a character from the movie, I will be putting those videos as a time-lapse up on Patreon just because I think it's a fun little pre-production thing that I do along with all of my notes and scripts. But thank you guys again so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye!